Hi, and welcome to Best in Tesla. So, when it comes to GM and Mary Barra, they are really starting to get detached from reality. This is never a good sign for a company that just continues to lie and maybe even start believing their own lies. So, for us to take a look at the numbers GM are talking about and the numbers that Tesla is talking about, well, it all comes down to whether we trust the company to execute on the things they are telling us or not. But the problem for GM is if they cannot execute on the targets they have set themselves, they might be heading for yet another bankruptcy. So this time, if they are still just talking the talk and not walking the walk, well, this will not end well for GM. So the stakes are high for GM to actually make good on their promise this time around. But nothing really points toward that Mary Barra and GM knows what they are talking about, because the numbers are pretty clear if we just look at them. So let's try to do that and try to see who we should trust here. And let's dive right in. So, as I said, it's all about whether we trust the company to deliver on what they have promised. And GM's track record when it comes to EVs is not good. In October 2017, GM said they would have at least 20 new all-electric vehicles that will launch by 2023. GM's president Mark Rush added that these aren't just words in a war of press releases. Well, it's now over 4.5 years ago that GM claimed they would in 5 years have 20 new EV models. And we are not anywhere near that goal. They are right now producing the Hummer EV in small volumes together with the Lyriq, and the Bolt EV and EUV has just started up again. So right now GM has a grand total of 4 EV models. They just revealed the Silverado, but that will not start production before spring 2023. So a whole year from now. And GM has a plan for 2 additional EVs in 2023. In the spring we should get the Blazer EV, and in autumn we should get the Equinox EV. So if we say they will actually do all this they promised, we will have 7 EV models by the end of 2023, when they promised us 20 EV models. So that was pretty much just words in a war of press releases. And now they only have 2 years left to get the last 23 models on the road that they promised in 2020 by 2025, and they are still sticking to that one and want to sell 2 million EVs by 2025 as well. So we can already see GM is not delivering on what they promised they will give us. They will be down 13 models in 2023 compared to what they promised us. And we have to wait and see how many of the last 23 models they are missing they will be down in 2025. Tesla has also been missing out on a few EV models yet to come, but in 2023 we should get all the missing models like the Cybertruck, Roadster and Semi-Truck. So then Tesla will have delivered on all they have promised on EV models. And when it comes to production, Tesla is actually the one that has delivered on that. They might have been delayed on the models they have promised us, but when it comes to production units, they have been pretty much right on the money. In 2014, Elon said they expected to be able to produce about 500,000 cars in 2020. And that was exactly what they did. They produced 506,000, even though short seller says that would be impossible because no complex manufacturer had ever grown with a compound annual growth rate of over 50%. But Tesla did just that, and short sellers like Mark Spiegel even said back in May 2018 that the Tesla Model Y was just vaporware. Tesla would never produce it, but it is now one of the best-selling cars in the world. And he talked about all the competition that was coming and that Mercedes alone could crush Tesla. Well, in 2021, you could take Mercedes, BMW, Audi, Volkswagen, Skoda, Opel, Ford, GM combined sales of EVs in 2021, and it will not be enough to beat Tesla sales of 930,000 EVs. So one thing is very clear, it is not the Tesla shorts we'll be trusting, because they have been wrong this entire time. But Tesla said they were aiming for 360 to 400,000 in 2019, and they did 367,000, again right on the money. And in 2021 they said more than 50% growth, so above 750,000 units, and they delivered 937,000 units. So when it comes to deliveries, we are going to believe Tesla because they have a track record that shows they do deliver on these numbers. And even though they seem insane, and has even started sandbagging the numbers a bit like we saw in 2021. And Elon has just said they still believe they can deliver over 1.5 million cars this year. I think this is a sandbagging number, but GM's numbers on the other hand of 2 million electric vehicles in 2025 is, in my opinion, much more unrealistic. And for them to think they will catch up with Tesla in 2025 with the production of just 2 million EVs only shows us the complete lack of understanding what is going on right now with their biggest competitor in the EV market. So let me show you some numbers here. Tesla will deliver at least 1.5 million cars this year. I still think it would be quite a bit more than that, but of course Tesla would be a little conservative to make sure they can actually deliver on this and surprise, just like last year. But where will Tesla be next year in 2023, when GM will have their 7 EV models being produced? Well, we already know the Shanghai factory will have a capacity of over 1 million vehicles. With the production we have seen so far and the expansion of the production line, they should have up and running already next month in June 2022. So in 2023 they should be able to produce over 1 million just from this factory alone. And then we have the Fremont factory that has a capacity of 600,000 units. So let's just say that we'll be able to produce about 500,000. And then we have the 2 new factories in Berlin and Texas that both in 2023 will have had 9 months to ramp up production. So if the Shanghai factory ramp is anything to go by, well, that factory did 473,000 cars in its second full year of operation, and that was including building the whole second phase of the factory during those 2 years. Berlin and Texas don't need to do that, they can just ramp up with a much simpler car with 2 giga casting and much more efficient factory. So to even think it would only do the same as the Shanghai factory is kind of crazy. Of course, these 2 new factories will be able to ramp up much faster, but let's just say they will only be able to produce 475,000 each to keep it at the same rate as the Shanghai factory actually did, because Tesla has already proven they can do that. Well, that would mean that Tesla will produce about 2,450,000 cars next year, and that is on the conservative side in my opinion. So even if we say Texas and Berlin will not be able to scale up as fast as Shanghai did and have a disaster of a year and only produce about 250,000 units, this is so absurd it's almost funny, but that will mean that Tesla will still produce about 2 million cars in 2023, and GM's goal is 2 million in 2025, and expect that to be enough to beat Tesla. How exactly is this enough, Mary, when Tesla will already do more than that next year? And GM did only produce 480, not 1,000, just 480 EVs in Q1 of 2022. So they have a long way to go, because the best-selling EVs they have ever had is the Bolt that has only sold 25,000 units in a whole year, and they only have a target of 47,000 in 2022 to 2 million in 2025. They will not be able to do that in my opinion. Probably not even if we count the sales of the Wuling Mini EV in China as well. But that little shoebox of a car is not made by GM, it's made by Wuling. And GM is just an investor in the company, holding about 40% of the joint venture and the rest in Wuling and SAIC. So at most, GM could count in about 40% of those sales as their own, but they of course count them all in, which again is a big lie. But still, 2 million seems like a stretch what they have shown us so far, and they don't even seem to have a plan on how they are gonna be able to do this. So it's not looking too good for GM if you ask me, and GM did go bankrupt. We have to remember that. They are not even good at making money on their old ICE business. Tesla has never gone bankrupt, even though many thought they would, and they a couple of times came really close, but they only lended about 465 million, not billions, but millions from the government that they paid back early with interest. The US taxpayers earned money on that loan, but it did cost the US taxpayers $11 billion to bail out GM, and GM still owes the US government billions of dollars. And it is not like GM can blame it all on COVID and chip shortage, because if we look at the units sold through the years, we can see GM lost 1.88 million units in vehicle sales from 2017 to 2019. But GM only lost 1.43 million units in vehicle sales from 2019 to 2021. So they lost more in units sold before COVID, chip shortage, and supply chain issues, and all the other excuses. So it is not true that their sales are going down just because of that. They actually lost more in the 2 years before these 2 bad years we have just been through. So that is just new excuses. And when we hear Mary Barra talk about why we should believe them, that they will be able to deliver on these numbers, she never really talks much about an actual plan on how to do this. It's always about how GM has 100 years of experience, and that really worries me. Because we could make ICE cars and have done so for 100 years, you have to believe us, we will be able to do the same with EVs. Yeah, well, like Nokia was also the biggest phone company, but that did not make them the biggest smartphone company. Nope, they kind of just disappeared. And we have just got the Tesla Impact report, and I will be digging more into that because there was a lot of nice juicy details in there, so stay tuned for that. But Tesla once again confirmed their goal of 20 million EVs sold by 2030. For some people this might sound insane, just like when they in 2014 said 500,000 in 2020. That was also insane. But I think we have to look at Tesla's track record on delivering on their production numbers. And they have been spot on. So why should we suddenly stop believing Tesla when they come up with a new bullish goal? Because it has never been done before? Well, the short sellers made that mistake once before, and it has cost them billions of dollars. So I would not bet against Tesla's goal of 20 million cars in 2030, but GM clearly doesn't believe Tesla will be able to get to 20 million EVs, and not even that Tesla will be able to make 2 million EVs in 2025, when we pretty much know this is a done deal already next year. This is so embarrassing, but I do doubt GM's goal of just 2 million in 2025 because they have a track record of pretty much doing nothing when it comes to EV production. They have been producing BEVs for half a decade with the Bolt, but has never sold more than 25,000 units in a whole year. They have never ramped up production. And now they want to go from 47,000 units in 2022, which they still have a long way to go to get that one in the bag, since they sold less than 500 units in Q1. But let's say they will be able to ramp up to 2 million cars by 2025. That will mean they will have to ramp up production with something like 650,000 units every year in 2023, in 2024, in 2025 to get to the 2 million in production in 2025. But GM has also told us that their target of 2030 is 50% EVs, and they sell about 6.3 million units in total in 2021, so we're talking about 3.15 million EVs by 2030. So they will suddenly stop its big ramp in 2025 when GM has ramped up production with 650,000 units a year to get to 2 million, right? And then suddenly only ramp 230,000 over the next 5 years. This makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever, and therefore I really have a hard time believing GM and their EV target. Firstly, they are out there straight up lying about them being the leader in the EV race. They said 20 EV models by 2023. That will clearly not happen as well. They don't even have a plan for that anymore. And the goals they have set just don't seem to add up, like 2 million in 2025 but only 3 million in 2030. Why would they slow down if they expect to become the leader in the EV race, as they have said they will, when everyone else is only ramping up production, but GM plans to ramp up quickly and then slow down again? How the hell is that going to make them the leader in the EV race? It won't. GM will never become the leader in the EV race with the goal they have of 100% EVs by 2035. Are you kidding me? So they're aiming for 6.3 million EVs in 2035 and think they will make them the leader in the EV race. So they still think they will be able to sell millions of ICE vehicles after 2030, when EVs has long been the absolute cheapest option. This is just madness. They clearly don't know anything about Tesla, since they don't believe Tesla will be able to produce 2 million cars in 2025, when they will do that already next year. This is not a question mark. That's a done deal. The question mark is whether it will be 2.4, 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, but 2 million, that's a done deal. But GM just don't see it. And I think they will only continue down the bad spiral they have been on for the last half decade, where they have lost more than 40% of their global sales, have been kicked out of Europe, hardly present here anymore. And now Mary Barra is saying GM will come back to Europe and sell their EVs here. Sure. And seeing Mary embarrassing continue to say things that just doesn't make sense just makes me very worried about GM. Because I do think Mary might actually believe what she's saying, and if that's the case, that will not end well, and the public will by 2025 have lost all trust in her and the company, when they will not have delivered the 30 EV models or the 2 million in production they promised, and will clearly be very far behind Tesla. What will she say then? But what do you think? Will GM be able to ramp up this old company to become the leader in the EV race? Will they ever beat Tesla in the EV production? Will they be able to avoid bankruptcy once again? Well, let me know your thoughts down below. And thank you for watching. And until next time, take care out there and be nice.